liberals are like gnashing their teeth right now because Trump cut off all this damn money going everywhere, right? With the Office of
Right.
Management and Budget or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, apparently there were some built-in expenditures. Like, let me give you another. Remember the Pakistani transgender studies?
Oh yeah, your buddy Mike Johnson helped pass that.
Well,
Oh, I'm
I wasn't
sorry.
talking about him,
I'm supposed to talk nice
but
about the Speaker of the House.
apparently they found Dogie or whatever and brought to the attention of the president 37 million that was going to the World Health Organization that Biden had built in the Office of Management and Budget. But more importantly, they had 50 million going to Gaza for condoms.
What? Boy,
Have
I
you
have
seen
so
Gaza?
many jokes there.
Have you seen Gaza lately? I mean, what are they going to use condoms for in Gaza right now?
Don't make me joke about that. Don't make me comment. We'll have the, you know, Muslim warlords and all that after us.
Oh, I'd have
We'll,
been there, done
we'll be
that.
back.
All right.
I'll be able to join you on Al Jazeera.
Yeah, been there, done that. I know. Well, BBC, don't leave them out.
Oh, yes. Howdy, folks. I see a few people starting to tune in. We were talking about Gazanian condoms, I guess would be the appropriate term. What do you call people from Gaza?
A Gazanian condom.
Yeah.
I mean, is a Gazanian condom different than another type of condom? I've never heard of a Gazanian condom.
I have so many jokes, but I'm trying to keep this trying to keep this made for kids, which we'll talk about the city council stupidly does, but that's a whole other conversation.
We'd probably have to hire Manshack to explain that to us. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's see how many folks. We got about 40 something folks already, and we're only 2 minutes in. So, I mean, I just went ahead and quickly titled the show Ad Nauseam. I started to put a little cartoon caricature of like some vomit coming up from a bunch of politicians, but, you know, I didn't want to scare off everybody from the show. So I assume we're going to talk about the city council and the city council and the city council and probably some term limits, right?
Well, yeah, probably so. And I mean, you put ad nauseum. I mean, I put in the show notes, I described the show as submission.
Well,
I don't know.
But I got to take a little bit of an issue with them actually submitting. I've got my thoughts on that I won't share just yet. And
well, are they really submitting or not? I don't know.
This is going according to plan for them. I mean, we finally get a small victory, and they were, you know, accused of maybe committing malfeasance. They've been called recalcitrants. I mean, pretty much the Court of Appeals excoriated them, but they get to laugh all the way to the voting booth in March. I mean, I don't want to sound like Debbie Downer tonight, but things are not all hunky-dory in term limits land.
I don't know. I think it is an amazing thing. How many times have you seen? Well, anyway, we'll cover that in a minute. But I tell you, I see. You know what I think? So let's talk. We're already in it. So what did you think about the council meeting? I know what I thought about it. What did you think about it?
Well, I was watching them, and the smirk on Jeff Free's face. Not just that. Montgomery, I don't think Montgomery ever looked at the crowd. He was looking up like at the YouTube camera, you know, the live feed cameras pretty much the whole time. I don't think he ever looked down at the crowd at all.
He was focused. He was focused on not allowing anything to distract him or get his attention, none whatsoever. It felt like a mortuary in there or a funeral.
Yeah, it almost did.
There was no energy. I was expecting it to be fireworks and excitement.
I wanted a point of order at least. That's honestly, that's why I didn't get up there and say anything, because I wanted to give the opportunity for other people to speak. But two, well, it was just like dead. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to get any kind of, rise out of them. So, oh well.
It's almost as if they were counseled to not say anything.
It's almost as if that. As a matter of fact, when we come back from the break, well, they might have been. I wonder, I just wonder if that was almost, I'll call it a quasi walking quorum meeting before the meeting.
Not more meetings before the meeting, but you know what?
Not that they took any official business. They didn't pass any ordinances or anything, but
Well, yeah, maybe a meeting for the meeting. But I got to tell you, I got the cure, Rex. I got the cure for them, and that, I don't know. It's almost like they was on the 10th floor at LSU doing the Thorazine shuffle or something. But I got something. I got something that to help them out. I mean, and this is free. They don't owe us nothing for this. I'm not going to charge them for this advice, but I think I can get a little hop in their step, a little pep in their spunk. And I'm not talking about Gazanian condoms either. If you'll go to that second cut I got, and I mean, I may just go ahead and order them some of this and have it delivered to them. And I mean,
are you talking about the fuzzy rat?
Yeah.
Okay.
They need a little Missouri potted meat, and in their diet.
Yeah, some Missouri potted tree rat.
I mean, they obviously aren't getting a good healthy diet, and there's nothing a little Missouri potted squirrel meat won't get a little hot and pep in their step. I mean, there's no way you can't eat squirrel meat and you're bouncing around like a Mexican jumping bean.
Yeah, look, my boys have not been around hunting the squirrels around our neighborhood lately, or let me rephrase that since we're in the city limits, pretending to hunt the squirrels around here lately. So we have an overabundance of the little cat squirrels. We could go in the potted squirrel meat business and dish it out at the council.
Yep, they could have used some today. There ain't no doubt about it.
All right, well, let's do our little countdown and ads and all that stuff. Give everybody a few minutes to share things around, and let's come back after the break and let's just get straight into the meeting because there was actually quite a bit to talk about, at least for tonight. How about that?
Roll with it.
All right, here we go. Countdown. Fire away, folks. Y'all know what to do. Share the show out. Tag people, text people, let everybody know we're on our soapbox again, and we will be right back.
A lot of the back office on the politicians that they think walk on water, they would be shocked. There's an old wound from a knife in my back that just is giving me heck lately, and it's just really irritating, so I have to kind of wiggle around a little bit.
I titled it A Shot Across the Bow of the Good Old Boys.
Just, they feel helpless, they don't feel heard, they have nowhere to turn.
Some Republicans as well believe that government has the answers. And let me tell y'all something. I don't know anything government does well. Nothing.
Aren't there laws that say that you have public meetings so that the public can have accountability of their elected officials?
As a member of the media, I'm very concerned about what I've just heard.
Well, I'm not thinking Star Wars at all. I'm thinking zombie apocalypse. All folks coming from the border down there?
Yeah, it's going to border. It's going to Mexico, the buses.
Doesn't mean they interpret it the same way that I do. For instance, the Second Amendment. I take it very literally. That's been interpreted different ways in the court system all the way up to SCOTUS.
We're still right now combined on both pages and YouTube at 264 people watching. That is amazing, folks. Through conscious, shocking actions, which in turn would enrich sitting city council members Scott Irwin and David Montgomery Jr. In theory, it's an every week thing. We got to double check and make sure it's like a miracle any of this actually works. This live broadcast is brought to you by the Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 25 years in the mortgage business. Pelican Training and Consulting. Reach out to Julie Ferris. Smarter Geek, making technology easier, and folks sharing information and watching out. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go. And here we are again, show number 243, Ad Nauseam Submission. How about that? We'll combine the two names together.
Well, we'll talk about that as well, too, at the end of the show. Jeff Sadow dropped an article, like literally 30 minutes before the show. Jeff, it's hard to consume. Sometimes you got to think about your articles a little bit. They're a little deep. You got to give folks a little more time to consume them, especially if they're doing a social media show.
Yes, and especially if they're amateur pundits doing a social media show who get things ready at the last minute. So.
Yeah, people think we're smarter than we actually are, but no, I brushed over his article, and I would call it a strategy, a little bit of a strategy that he lays out, or would you call it that? What he's trying to say, kind of the way things ought to go, that's in the best interest of the citizens of Bossier.
Yeah, I think so. And so, like I said, we've only had a few minutes to kind of skim through this, but if you go to bossierviews.substack.com, and we'll share this out on the Facebook page as well, of course, and skim down there, Sadow's got a good, kind of, I don't know. He goes through it.
We'll go
pretty good
at the end.
Yeah, the strategy. I was trying to think of the daggum word, and then I couldn't think of it to ask you what I needed to say. Anyway, it's a good strategy, folks.
I got
hung
up. I got hung up because Cassie Rogers apparently was eating some potted squirrel meat and spit it out for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
But Ann Price is talking. She said something about some other kind of squirrel meat. Hell, apparently this is a thing. I had no idea.
Oh, yeah. And I'm just going through the comments. Bear with us for a minute, folks. Sadow says, sorry, typed it as fast as I could. We'll forgive you, Jeff. Now, Louisiana Redbone is over from X. Look at there, a comment from Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter. She says, are y'all not streaming on Facebook? Well, we should be, because I'm watching the stream right here on Facebook as well. So, should be on Facebook, should be on YouTube, and of course on X and Twitter. All right, back to Sadow's article.
Yeah, I'm showing maybe about 60 or 70 people on Facebook, and then on the other ones or whatever, I'm showing, almost the same amount across the other one. Anyway.
Yeah, and we're on Louisiana Watch and Bossier Watch streaming on Facebook. So anyway, not sure really what the issue is, but as long as you can watch the show, and hopefully we'll provide a little bit of comic relief and entertainment tonight, politically speaking. All right. Again, those dadgums, we keep having squirrel moments since you mentioned that squirrel.
Yeah, well, one, I don't like Missouri. I'll just say that. And if you're from Missouri, well, y'all screwed up all the duck hunting in Louisiana, so that's my beef. And
they don't have trees up there,
but they got potted squirrel. How does that work?
But they have little bitty squirrels. I literally lived in Pontiac, Missouri, on the edge of Bull Shoals. They have little. My wife is from Oklahoma. They have similar trees, and they're like, she was amazed at how big the trees are down here. But Missouri, I don't know how they do have squirrels. I don't know how they have squirrels, because they have what I consider scrub trees.
Well, so what are they putting, a whole squirrel per can?
I don't know. I don't, it must be. I've got some fox squirrels around here that you get about one hind leg in one of those cans.
Well, hey, look, I got to tell you, remember me? I was telling you, I was like, look, business ain't real good. People ain't buying houses or not financing and, stuff, all that. I'm going to have to find me another job. I don't make no money doing this. This costs me money. I'm losing doing this. I lose friends. I lose business. I lose. But
before we get back to actually doing the show on the topic, though, I do want to say at the city council meeting today, it was brought to our attention, and I had seen this in the news headlines too, that we should go to Washington, D.C. because Trump has basically welcomed people into the press corps. I mean, literally said podcasters and citizen journalists.
Look, there is no stone being unturned up there. I mean,
well, I didn't realize it, but did you know that the press corps is not like an official government thing? It's just like a club of the press that they put together. And so they like rule the roost with the press secretary, but it's not like they can't get the Secret Service to kick you out just because you're not a member of the press corps. As long as you got credentials to get in, you're good to
well,
go.
I did not know that. I mean,
Yeah,
that's something else I've learned today.
Well, I'm
I
not
didn't
saying
even
it 100% accurately, but I'm pretty close, and you can look it up.
I didn't even know there were Gazanian condoms. I've never heard of it. That's a new one on
Gazanian
me.
condoms and squirrels. That's what we're talking about tonight. If you can't
But
tell, folks, we're absolutely amateur tonight.
Missouri potted squirrel meat. And Ann Price throwed out earlier some other kind of potted squirrel meat. I mean, I don't know. I got to tell you, it is bizarro world to me right now. I can't keep up. I just can't keep up. But
we'll be lucky if we have anybody watching the show in about the next 3 or 4 minutes. They're going to be like, "Oh no, we're tuning these guys out."
they are amateurs. I don't know what the heck they're talking about. But look, business ain't worth a crap, right? And Trump's trying to fix all that for everybody. But hey, he's also trying to give everybody a job. Did you know that?
Wait, what?
I think that he's fixing to propose to give everybody a job.
Well, that somehow sounds like a liberal Democrat thing, and we welcome our liberal Democrat friends to watch the show and comment.
Okay.
But
hold up before you go too far, because I don't want you to get carried away here. I think what's fixing to be proposed is actually in the freaking Constitution.
What?
The letter of marque.
I am so lost right now and learning, or hope I'm learning something. So go ahead,
Okay.
enlighten us.
Okay. So, how many of y'all have ever heard of the letter of marque, or a letter of marque? Have y'all heard of that? Well, if you haven't and you need a job, I'm thinking Trump and our government is fixing to hook you up. Now, just so let me show you. Pull up that cut XXX or whatever.
Okay, yeah, give me a second because I'm like bedazzled right now. Here we go. Cut. Which one?
Well, you said you renumbered it. XXX.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I got you. All right, hold on. Bear with me, folks. Here we go. Let me get rid of our little potted squirrel here. Okay.
So if you're needing a job.
Okay.
Yeah. So, back in the day, around the time of, writing the Constitution and the country having to protect itself and all this stuff, we didn't have we didn't have an army and but there was this little thing called privateers. And it's in the Constitution that, Congress can write a letter of marque to people. And like on this one, for an example, this is an image of an original letter of marque. And you see down there about middle of the page, subdue, seize, and take any armed or unarmed British vessels, public or private.
Oh.
And it was conscripting private citizens to go and protect the interests of the United States and enforce the law and enforce,
kind of like an early citizens arrest type thing.
Correct. And so they were taught
hold on, I got to pause for 1 second because I need to remind everybody. My one key issue with everything centers around the Second Amendment. James Madison basically wrote the Second Amendment. And this just proves that it wasn't about guns for hunting little squirrels. All right.
But that's exactly right. So what this is basically saying, and if Congress passed it, they could conscript citizens by issuing letters of marque to go pursue. And you say, well, if they issued a letter of marque to citizens and or a business to go and, let's say, hunt out, illegal aliens in the country and arrest them, seize them, and take them to the authorities, to ICE or to the government, to have them remove people that were violating our Constitution.
Yeah, so you could have got a letter of marque, and then those nice Hispanic folks that you interviewed on the bus that's in our show intro, you could have just taken them straight to ICE, right?
Taking them straight to ICE, but let me put the twist on this. Of what value would that be to me? Because I was talking about business, right?
Yeah, okay.
Well, when you get a letter of marque, whatever you go and the people or the items or the thing, if there's something of value, you get to keep that or split it with the government.
Now,
so let's say you go bust up a house full of illegals that bought a house. I'm thinking you're going to get to keep half the property.
Well, I would be remiss without pointing out and reminding everybody, back to the Second Amendment, you better go armed. Very armed. Very well armed.
Well, I'm not saying you shouldn't be. There's no way I would do that without that, but I'm just saying if I had a letter of marque and I go and seize, like this original letter of marque, a British vessel, it's worth it to me to go capture or destroy a British vessel, because everything that I was able to seize off of it, I get to keep half of it and have to split it with the government. Either way, it's profitable for me to do it.
Hey, I got an idea. Maybe we could get a letter of marque from Trump. Since Johnson's the Speaker of the House and all, maybe he would give us a letter of marque and a few of our Bossier Watch friends that are watching, and we could go take over and seize the piracy that has been ongoing at the Bossier City Council.
Oh, we're getting way out on the wild side. You better lay off of that potted squirrel meat is what I'm going to tell you.
Hey, and I'm just drinking water. You should see me if I'm having a real drink.
Well, no more Gazanian condoms for you.
All right. So
people that are just tuning in are like, what did he just say?
What the hell are they talking about? Again, you'll have to forgive us, folks. And I'm not firing on all 8 cylinders. I've been focused on trying desperately to get in my bass boat and actually go bass fishing, because we have been so focused on politics for so long. I'm just itching to go fishing. But anyway, back to reality.
Yeah, I think Jessica Langley Maddox is trying to bring us down to earth, and she's talking about the port. I guess they're importing potted squirrel meat at the port now or something. I don't know.
There's no telling. Hey, I'll tell you what they didn't talk about today. They did not talk about Darby, who Bossier now identified as a Democrat multiple times. And remember,
he did.
He did. And look, I said it, I don't know, 100 shows or 150 shows ago, and everybody got pissy with me. So I had to come back on and say, okay, I'm sorry, he's an independent. But
everybody, wasn't it just him?
Well, maybe it was, but we get to embellish on the show. So, but guess who was not at the city council meeting today when he had his own ordinance or resolution being put forward to support Donald Trump? And I would argue that's crazy talk, because let's see, Darby was the one that signed on to the form letter with that Immigrants 2025 business or whatever the hell that was, which, remind everybody, Miss Alice Boyer got escorted out of the meeting because she was trying to bring that up. And here Darby is trying to do a letter of support for Trump, and Trump's going around. I mean, they've arrested thousands of illegals by now. Well, I don't understand this stupidity. But Darby was not at the meeting to face the music on that.
Yeah, why he removed it or had it removed or he didn't show up, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can't speak to that. But I think the fact that he's trying to bring this resolution to support Trump or whatever, I mean, I had some comments ready and prepared to say in regards to that, and I still have them, because hopefully he will bring it again at the very next meeting. And because I don't think my comments are going to be any different then than they are now. It's a farce that he would even try to do this. I mean, he wants to have his cake and to eat it too. He wants to stand up there and, say that, oh, congratulations to Donald Trump and on the job he's doing regarding illegal immigration. Yet just 3 months ago, he was putting his name on a letter of support for Joe Biden in breaking our immigration law. But hey, I mean, in that our immigration law, it uses the word shall numerous times. I mean, what the hell difference does it matter for a guy in Bossier City that ignores the word shall than, the president of the United States ignored it? I mean, I think they were in good company, but for him to try to want to jump ship now and get on board with Trump, it is there a stench of hypocrisy that you can't smell anywhere else, I think, in the country than right here in Bossier City, Louisiana. It's disgusting.
And I would remind all the political operative types that watch the show that it would be real easy to tie the recalcitrant five to Darby and thus to the support of the immigrant situation because they kicked Alice Boyer out and almost kicked her out a second time at a subsequent meeting because they don't want to hear anything about that. Just let Darby sign that letter as a city councilman. It's fine. So, see, there you go.
Yeah.
All right.
But now because it suits their interests, by all means, we're going to talk about it now. Well,
yeah.
All right, boys, bring it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah. All right. So, where shall we go from here? I'm not even following our notes.
Hey, look, everybody, I want to I got one more cut in the initial banter.
Okay.
Everybody is doing a wonderful job of voicing their support or opposition to Senator Kennedy and Senator Cassidy on, the appointments, like specifically of Kennedy, to the, what is it? Not the Health and Human, whatever. But I mean, they are getting blown away. People are actually speaking a lot. So in the spirit of everybody, making phone calls, I mean, don't forget, we have another important one this week. My friend Kash Patel, by all means, I want to encourage all of you guys to call, Cassidy and Kennedy and demand they support Kash Patel for the FBI director. I mean, there's no place in government that needs a better house cleaning than the FBI. And this is the guy to do it. This is the guy that busted up the Russia collusion stuff. Remember all the false crap about Trump they were spewing out there of the Russia collusion and all this stuff?
Right.
Well, this is the guy that dug it all up. He's broke it all up. He knows where the bodies are buried, and he's going to break it off in them if he's able to get the votes and get in there. So call your senators and make sure they vote for him. Okay.
Yeah, that's a very good idea. Those Senate confirmations are very important because they got to get through the Senate process to actually be put in. Trump can nominate them, but they still got to get approved by the Senate. And well, we won't even go down the Cassidy rabbit hole right now because, well, he's Cassidy. All right. Yeah, Miss Ann Price says definitely support all the nominees. Jessica Langley-Maddox says I'm emailing Cassidy every day about voting for President Trump's nominees. Patel is the left's biggest nightmare after Trump. Hey, I thought Trump was a racist.
Oh, don't get me started.
I mean, Kash Patel sounds, obviously he's got a very good tan going on. And his name doesn't sound like a, let's just say, traditional American name. So if Trump's such a racist and all the MAGA supporters are such racist, what are you white folks doing hanging out with Kash Patel?
Well,
why is Trump supporting him? I mean, I'm just pointing that out for all you haters out there.
Okay, well, I'm fixing to have to share a screen, but I suspect that it has something to do with, maybe I'm not going to share a screen. I think we tried this before.
Well,
nope, not happening. So I'm gonna, anyway, don't you know that anyone and everyone that you don't agree with, they're racist? Hadn't you
I'm sorry.
heard?
I'm sorry, Greg. I must be the racist because Greg Bell just informed us Patel is Irish. I had no clue.
I think he's got a little bit of Brit in him, I mean, but yeah, I can definitely see the Irish in him without a doubt.
Okay. Yeah. So, where was that comment? Miss Jerry asked, "How do you spell it?" And I put it up there. I think that's correct right there. Cash Patel. I think that's correct. All right. Where are we going now?
Yeah,
This is like the most random show ever.
it is. It's cool. I love it. It's
We're just coming up with stuff off the top of our head. There's no telling what we'll say.
yeah. Somebody said, to put it in context. Somebody said it really good. They said, talked about he is the biggest badass. He's the badass only second to Trump out of all of the appointees. Whoever said that is 100% correct.
Interesting. All right. Are we ready to move on to the city council meeting, or are we gonna? Which is fine. Are we gonna stay on the national stuff? I don't really care tonight.
If we have to, I was enjoying us too much. So
Not
yeah, you're
not
right.
talking about the city council for a while.
You're right. We got to get to this boring crap. Enough with the potted squirrel meat and Kazanian condoms. We can't talk about that no more. Anyway.
All right.
So what? Bossier Press. The Bossier Press. What about the Bossier Press?
Oh yeah, let's talk about the Bossier Press for a little bit. Hold on. Let me go back to screenshot mode here.
Didn't I see an email go out ripping their butts? I thought I seen somebody put an email out ripping them.
Yeah, and look, this is kind of crazy because I think I had a post or shared out one of Bossier Now's articles. And remember, folks, Howell said, and I quote, talking about Duke and I about a year and a half ago, "You're dead to me. Bossier Watch is dead to me." Quote. But I'll give Howell credit on Bossier Now. He's been covering the term limits and pretty spot on here lately. So I would encourage folks to go subscribe to the Bossier Now deal. I mean, whether you want to subscribe money-wise or just subscribe to get the email notices, your call, but he's actually done a decent job. But the Bossier Press Tribune, on the other hand, that's a different story. And they are the journal of record for the Bossier City Council.
Yeah, that is egregious. And here's the thing. It's right here, right out of the gate in that paragraph right there. The contentious issue of term limits for Bossier City officials will go before voters on March 29th, 2025, following a judicial decision rejecting an appeal by 5 city council members who sought to block the proposed charter amendment. It sounds like finally, after the judges thing, everybody's going to get to vote on it on March 29th, Rex.
Yeah, all you Bossier term limit supporters and coalition members and all that, we won, according to the Bossier Press Tribune.
Yeah, but, I mean, somehow they knew to go to the bond commission before the judicial decision was out to get the term limits issue on the ballot on March 29th.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Here's the deal, Randy Brown. You need to look, I get it. You're the journal of record for the city council. So I'm speculating here, but I bet the income and revenue from the city of Bossier and whatever other local government entities you're the journal of record for. Look, I get it. The newspaper, the dead dinosaur business, it's still falling off and all that. So I get it. You need the money and the revenue. But at least you could do a little bit better job covering how you're presenting this in your articles. Because like you said, Duke, if you just read that paragraph straight up, you would think, oh, everything's hunky-dory. But it's not. I mean, otherwise, why did they have the city council meeting today where they actually had to finally be forced to approve the term limits resolution from the original, from the second petition back in July of 2024?
And no way would they do it. I mean, they were gritting their teeth today. We're going to show you here in just a minute. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
there's no way, unless they were facing, contempt of court or possible malfeasance in office charges. There's no way they would ever. In fact, some of them have said that. They said that there's no way I'll ever, never, ever. Well, you sure
Right.
did today. You damn sure did today, didn't you? And you didn't say a damn word. You
Yeah.
sat there like you should have sat there the first time and just sent it to a vote of the people.
So the term limits saga is unfortunately far from over, and the Bossier Press Tribune is not very accurate in their reporting. Now, we're not one of those, that say, oh, you need to boycott this and blah, blah, blah. I'm not really into that, but I'm just saying, if you subscribe to the Bossier Press Tribune, you might want to think twice about it. That's all I'm saying. Unless they start doing a better job of reporting. And I know Colonel Crockett has reached out directly to them to try to get the story completely straight. I'm not saying they're lying. They're just not putting in large segments of the story.
Well, here's the problem with that, Rex. And I will say this to everybody watching. This isn't the first time they've done this. This
Right.
makes the second time they have not articulated the circumstances correctly. And you might say, well, maybe they just accidentally. No, after the first time,
Right.
I know for a fact they were told, because I sent the message. I know
Right.
who sent the message, and I know who over there gave them the message that they got it wrong. They need to print it correctly. And what did they do? They turned around and did it again. So I'm of the conclusion that the Bossier Press Tribune is intentionally trying to confuse the citizens of Bossier City.
It's
Convince
almost
me.
like they're the mouthpiece for Richard Ray himself.
It wouldn't shock me if Richard Ray is not the one writing these. It wouldn't surprise me.
Very possibly so. Okay. Yes, Jessica Langley Maddox. Fake news. Yep, it is definitely not real news.
I mean, look, the Bossier Press has historically done a good job covering Bossier City stuff. I would like to see them redeem themselves. Maybe Stacy Tinsley is biased because she's the one that continues to keep writing these things. Maybe she has a dog in the hunt, and if she can't, report it, say you're biased. You know what? If you say you're biased, and
put it in an editorial, do an opinion piece.
I'm fine with that.
Right.
Knock yourself out, but don't sit here and try to say, you're a journalist and you're confusing the public. No, it's not how this works.
Yeah, I mean, even as amateur journalists and pundits who do this just as a hobby, we're more accurate than that news piece was. So, all right. Now that we've got that out of our systems, where shall we move on?
Let's go straight to the meeting, and let's just jump right off, because there were gems from beginning to end, even though it was like being at a funeral. There were some good things there.
Yeah. Okay. I would agree with that. So let me see if I can switch screens here. Yes. All right. So yeah, I'll start at the first thing, and we'll work our way down. How about that?
Yep, let's go.
All right. So this first one is Hammond's motion to remove Darby's, I think it was new business number 8 or whatever it was, which was Darby's support for Trump. Here we go. Wait, let me adjust the speed. Here we go. Wait a minute. What happened? Hold on. What happened to my sound here?
Request of Mr. Darby. Approve agenda as amended.
Can y'all hear that?
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Council have any questions? Any questions from the audience?
that coming through clear enough, or has it got it?
Did you make the motion to approve the agenda, Brian?
It's good on my side.
All right.
Yeah, as amended, yeah.
Okay.
Boy, I wanted to so get up there and
Please cast
comment.
your vote.
It was killing me.
I imagine. All right. So that was his. I'm going to try to adjust my sound real quick. That was his. Here we go. All right. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, gotcha.
All right. And hold on. Crap.
Horatio says Juan's the clerk sitting next to.
Yeah. Hold on. Why is our? Just a minute, Mr. Lowry. I have to do a little technical work here. For some reason.
Y'all, he's just trying to burnish those amateur credentials again. We go bashing one of the true papers journalist things, and then we got to jump up here and show that we're amateurs.
Yeah,
That's
well,
okay.
somehow, and I have to admit, I'm using the bleeding edge beta version. It was working fine in practice. All right, let me switch this back around. Hold on. Gummit.
All right, so.
Any questions from the audience?
Okay, there we go. All right, I'll have to figure that out later. All right, so back to the meeting. Sorry, folks, a little technical difficulty there. So Darby had this proposal, and Hammonds made the motion to take it off the agenda, and they voted for that. So we couldn't make any cute Darby comments.
Yeah. So Ruth Pope Johnson, they amended the agenda and approved the agenda, and then they immediately go to approving the minutes from the previous meeting. Well, that's when Ruth Pope Johnson comes up to the mic and starts talking about a subject I mean, I knew about because it was brought to our attention by one of our, fellow term limits activists who may or may not want their name mentioned, but they brought it to our attention. I probably the day that it happened. And, but Ruth went a step further. She learned about it and put some comments together. And I got to tell you, my read was that all the councilmen, they didn't have a clue what she was talking about.
Yeah, so Bubba Don was literally leaning over to Jeff Freese, basically saying, what the hell is she even talking about? They had no clue. So, and Chris Smith, after the meeting, he came up and said, look, he asked Miss Ruth, hey, exactly which sign are you talking about? I don't think any of them had a clue, which begs the question, well, how did the sign get put up there? So let's listen to her comments, then we'll show the sign. How about that?
Yep.
Ruth Pope Johnston, Bossier City, 71111. I rise today to ask, where is the matter of the recently passed ordinance on naming public memorial roadways for citizens who are recognized for their service to Bossier City? The ink isn't dry on the ordinance, and the lawful requirements of it have already been broken. Requirements for a majority vote, ignored. On the agenda, ignored. All names considered by the people, ignored. Already this council has installed a sign totally ignoring the people and the lawful requirements of their own ordinance. This ordinance recently passed, creating a pathway to posthumously honor citizens for contributions to Bossier City by naming them on a memorial walkway. The process called for their own ordinance in their own ordinance requires a majority vote in front of the people for all names considered. We, the people in Bossier City, were excited to begin to engage with Veterans Affairs to determine names of veterans from our great city who have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to this country. The people understand that there is no greater contribution to be made. So imagine our surprise and dismay when 5 members of this very council are staring at potentially felony charges of malfeasance, that they once again went behind the people's backs and installed the first memorial walkway at Citizens Bank Drive and the Benton Road intersection without presentation or debate before the people, and the most egregiously without the required public majority vote required in their own ordinance. And even though they have already installed the first sign illegally, it's still not on the agenda today. The first sign was never put on the agenda, has certainly never been voted on. Where are the people? Once again, you broke your own ordinance and potentially the law. Why? And why now? Because you've gotten away with it for so long. Why stop now? This is not unusual for 5 members of the City Council, well known by name: Montgomery, Free, Maggio, Williams, and Darby. We also recognize that our 2 incumbent councilmen, Brian Hammonds and Councilman-at-Large Chris Smith, had nothing to do with these potentially malfeasance acts. And on behalf of we the people of Bossier City, I want to express our sincere appreciation to these men who have always been the people's guardians on this council. In the interest of transparency, this complaint shall be forwarded to the state's Attorney General and to the state's Inspector General to analyze whether it should be included in potential malfeasance charges if taken up. At bare minimum, it serves to shine a light on the fact of the continued lawlessness that exists with the 5 recalcitrants and their disregard for the people. We've been hostages to their self-aggrandizement long enough at the expense of the people. We will not quit, we will not sit down, and we will not shut up. The veterans that we are trying to honor so desperately paid with their lives for us to rise and address our city government. No matter what you call us or how you attempt to demean us or how uncomfortable you try and make us, we will stand on the side of truth, the veterans, the law, and the people. Thank you.
So, Miss Ruth, I got to give you credit. You weaved lawlessness, recalcitrant, and malfeasance beautifully into your comments. Way to go.
And no point of order, no interruption, no nothing. They just sat up there like they were sedated and on psych meds or something.
Well, here's the irony of it. It's what those morons should have been doing all along.
Well, I agree, but they just sit up there and took it.
Yeah, that's literally what they're supposed to do. I mean, I gotta say, they were like well-behaved children, albeit recalcitrant children, but well-behaved children today. Yes, Jessica, they were zombies.
I am biting my tongue. I mean, I'm having to bite my tongue. There's so many things I want to say, but I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. So what exactly? Everybody's asking, like, they were all looking like, what the hell is she talking about? You know, and I think a lot of other people may not have had a clue what she's talking about. I mean, what sign? What?
Well, first, let's back up, though, to lead up to the sign. Here is, I think this should be the ordinance that the City Council passed, ordinance number 7 of 2025, the ceremonial naming ordinance. And let's see, I just kind of scanned down this. But basically, it lays out the process for naming a street. And it may only, down here at the bottom, you might not can see it, but I'll read it to everybody. An ordinance to provide for ceremonial street naming may only be initiated by a currently serving member of the Bossier City Council. So remember that. You got to have a city council initiate this. Well, they were all kind of clueless. I mean, I don't know. Darby wasn't there. Maybe Darby did it. Who knows? And then let me pull up the second part of this, cut number 2 here. All right. Candidates for street names must exhibit a minimum of 10 years of community involvement or demonstrated an extraordinary, consistent, voluntary commitment to the community. Blah, blah, blah. An individual to be honored must have been dead for at least 2 years prior to the date of application. Ceremonial street names shall be in the form of a sign topper, which is a sheet metal sign that is placed on top of the standard city street sign identification and shall adhere to the following specifications, blah, blah, blah. All right. So those are some of the rules. Must have exhibited a minimum of 10 years of community involvement, must have been dead for at least 2 years, and it's got to be a sign topper. Well, how about we take a look and see if they followed any of that?
Well, first off, and I think Ruth Pope Johnson was trying to say, what council meeting did they bring this up at?
Yeah. When did they vote on this?
When did they discuss it? that ordinance was just a meeting or two ago. The first meeting, the second reading of that ordinance was the first meeting of January in 2025.
Well,
And then
Chris Smith brought up a good point. After the meeting, he said, I think the ordinance has to be approved, and then 2 weeks it becomes law. And today, I think he said, if he calculates correctly, today will be the 14th day. Well, that sign's been up there longer than today. And what's the problem with that sign? What is the first thing that people see? It ain't no topper.
Well, I mean, is it appropriate for a street sign to be advertised in a bank? Is that what you're getting at?
Well,
oh no, that's not what you were getting at. I'm sorry.
It is if you're friends with Queen Monty.
I'm sorry. No, you were talking about it's not a sign topper, it's a sign bottomer.
Yes, it's on bottom, not on top.
So why would they slight this man and put him on the bottom? Why wouldn't they put him on the top?
I don't know.
I agree. I agree. I got a problem with this.
Yeah, that's a question.
It was supposed to be on top.
Yeah, so let's take a look at another angle here. Let me see if I can be a little creative with this. All right, there's another angle. All right, it's still on bottom. Here's another angle. Well, Duke, let me grab this call. Talk for a second.
Yep. Yeah. So I don't understand why. I mean, one, the rules say that a councilman was supposed to, and I think this is the overriding deal. A councilman was supposed to propose a name. It was supposed to come to the council, and a majority of all of the council, I think is unanimous, has to vote to approve naming a road or a passageway or whatever. They have to all agree. And they just passed this thing, the first, for the second reading, passing the ordinance on January of this year. I mean, never has this been brought up. Then all of a sudden, here's this name, and it doesn't even meet the standards that is put forward in the ordinance. It's nothing about Don Johnson. I don't know the man. He may be a fine person, and I think we did a little bit of digging to find out what was his significance. What did he do in Bossier?
And
how so is it that he comes to being recognized?
So we did a little bit of digging. He was apparently, and again, I didn't know him either, so he might have been a fine guy. He was chairman of the board of the Bossier YMCA. Well, that actually sounds a little suspect, but again, he may have done a good job of that. President of the Bossier Chamber of Commerce. He was a deacon at First Baptist Church in Bossier City and sat on the board of directors at Red River Valley Bank. Again, didn't know the man. Maybe some of you do in the comments. Sure, he was a great guy. So,
you said something right then I didn't even know. That did connect the dot a little bit.
Yes, it did.
So, yeah.
So, wait a minute, though. Leave it to Greg Bell. Miami Vice Don Johnson? No, not the Miami. Well, he might have been, but no, not the Miami Vice Don Johnson. And hate to laugh because he just recently passed away not too long ago.
Don Johnson, chamber president. Lisa Johnson, chamber grandpapa.
Mm-hmm.
You think they're related?
I don't know. Maybe so. I mean, last name's the same, but I looked up his obituary and it didn't list Lisa Friday Johnson. So maybe they're not related, just to have the same last name. I don't know. Now he passed away on January the 2nd of 2023. So I wonder when that sign was put up, because remember, it was a minimum of 2 years.
Oh, that's right. So there was another violation of that ordinance.
Yeah. When was this picture taken? The one who sent it to us, let us know.
Well, I mean, I remember that because it came in like proton mail. That's been in January here.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is, so, let's say that they put those signs up January the 1st. Well, that would be less than 2 years, but let's say they put them up January the 3rd. That would be 2 years and 1 day according to the ordinance, but they just passed the ordinance, so it wasn't even in existence then. So this is, again, it is mass confusion, and like Miss Ruth said, they're just not following their own dadgum laws. I mean, this is stupid. And who the hell authorized the making of the sign, the putting up of the sign, the labor to do it, and all that? And again, nothing against Don Johnson. Maybe he's fully deserving of the sign. But who authorized somebody to do this? Somebody had to come up with the idea to do this sign and go get the city employees to do it.
You know what? I got a sneaking suspicion. I know how this story is going to end up. Here's how this story ends up. It's going to be just like after Joe Biden's gone, Trump discovers that Biden's already pre-budgeted condoms for Gaza, and potted squirrel meat for Iran. And, then Trump finds out about it and he's got to cancel it, but it was already put into effect. I'll bet you that this was something that they put in back during the construction of the Walter O. Bigby carriageway. There was no oversight. And, but here's the thing. How many of these, I'm going to have to assume he was friends with somebody down there for them to want to recognize him. How many other people that are friends or that, are the public will never have any input, that there's going to be signs being put up that are already in the works that were thought of before we put an ordinance in place. And we just say, oh, because we don't follow laws down there. And even though an ordinance may say shall, we won't follow that. How many of them more are coming, Rex? Or you got a sign coming?
Well, yeah, I can imagine what my sign would be. It'd be somebody giving me the middle finger. But here's the point that I want to bring up, because I like to be consistent. So, remember, laws only take away our ability to do something in the rare exception that they give back something that has already been taken away. So, again, I'll use the reason of a speed limit. Speed limits throttle you back to 70. Okay? Otherwise, you can drive as fast as you want. The reason we have, or previously had, open carry in this state is because there was no law against open carry. Therefore, you can do it. All right? So, maybe, and I'm just going to posit this theory out there, well, there was no law or ordinance against putting a sign up there. Maybe they just figured what the heck, they could do it, and then they thought, we better have an ordinance for that. I don't know. It's la land with this city council, so I'm just trying to come up with some way to justify their lawlessness.
Well, here's the thing. They opened up Pandora's box when they did the Walter O. Bigby carriageway statue. They opened up Pandora's box when they did that. And they don't care now because a lot of them are checking out. They're not going to have to deal with it going forward from now on out. But now it don't matter. You could, I don't know, somebody, everybody takes offense to everything. I mean, anybody. If somebody thinks we should name every street in the city of Bossier after somebody that we like in Bossier.
Yeah, where does it stop?
We just need to go ahead and do it. Just name everybody. Hell, I think we need to, every one of these councilmen, we need to name a couple of streets. We need to name at least 2 streets after the same person. You know why, Rex?
Why?
Because their ordinance says you can't do that. So that's why we need to do it.
Well, yeah, and look, not to denigrate anybody's memory of anybody, I think it's silly to designate a street or roadway name and then change it. I mean, I get, the memory of some folks and all that. Again, not trying to denigrate Miami Vice at all, and Mr. Johnson, because didn't know him. He's probably a fine man. But I just on principle, I wouldn't, not that they would name any streets after me, but I wouldn't want any streets named after me. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't want my name on a stupid statue of tax dollars either, in a roundabout.
All right, back to Restream. Time to move on. So
yeah, hey, one quick thought though on the Tower of Tax Dollars. So if they do get convicted of malfeasance and get felonies, can we go out there and put asterisks by their names?
Oh,
Ooh.
that would be, that's a good question.
Okay. Next subject.
They might should they might should consult their attorney on that. I'm thinking, and I'm not talking about Jacobs either. Anyway.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to term limits. What you say?
Yeah. So
shall I put up?
Yeah,
the
that kind of
cuts?
went off without it. That went off without a hitch. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was. Well, I hate to say it. It was kind of anticlimactic.
It was boring.
And I hate to say that because we encouraged, and we are so glad that a lot of folks showed up. Y'all did good. But I hate to say it, yeah, it was kind of, well, yeah, I guess it was a little boring. It was more boring than we thought it was going to be. So
but at least everyone that was there, I'm just curious, and y'all can say that if you want to say, I'm okay with you saying that the words I'm about to say are offensive and rude and mean or whatever. But for everybody that was there, you got to see those guys have to bend their knee.
Well, I got to say, Jeff Free was looking awfully snide up there.
Oh, he sure was. He especially when I spoke, because I was looking him dead in the eye, and I'll tell you, I think I could count his pulse rate in his forehead right there from the lectern looking at him, because he was he could have bit a 10-penny nail into. He so wanted to bite my head off, but I give him credit. He was controlled. I mean, it was like Jacobs must have sedated him back there or something. I don't know.
All right, so D.D. White Clark commented, qualifying has just started. Keep a watch on Jill Sessions, the clerk of courts page. Thank you for reminding us of that, because it's going to be interesting to see who actually qualifies. I mean, I've seen 0 Jeff Free signs. I think Chris Smith finally actually put up some signs. We kind of made fun of him. Was it last show or show before last?
Yeah, I think it was last show that we were talking about him. He was slouching. He was
got a late start to the sign wars. I guess he thinks he's got it in the bag. I don't
know. See, there you go again. See, I think you said that last show, and I got a criticism from the Chris Smith camp. They said, "Oh, you think he's being arrogant?" I said, "What are you talking about?" They said, "Well, somebody that on your show, you were saying that he was just believed that he was just going to be reelected, and that's why he wasn't putting any signs up." And I'm like, "I didn't say that." And he's like, "Well, one of you did." And it was
you can get, the head smartass on the show said, but I will say this. I told him today, I said, well, Chris, we have it so easy because you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. If you start putting up signs too early in the sign wars, we're going to make fun of you. And if you put them up too late in the sign wars, we're going to make fun of you. So,
right.
It's a no-win situation.
It wasn't his fault anyway, I think his I'm all about being mean tonight for some reason, saying rude things, but his sign guy was late getting the job done is what I understand. I think is the case, but
yeah. Maybe he had to wait in line. There were more important candidates. I don't know.
Yeah. So what are we pointing at here?
Well, I'm pointing just at the agenda items for adopting the resolution, ordering and calling a special election to be held in the city of Bossier City, blah, 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 to vote upon the adoption of amendments to the current city charter of the city of Bossier City. We've seen this ad nauseum. Making application to the State Bond Commission and providing for other matters in connection therewith. Got to have that therewith in there, even though it has no legal bearing, really. So anyway, this is the first resolution calling for the people's term limits. As I hate to say that because I think Richard Ray is the one that coined that phrase.
That was a good job on his part. That was a way to draw the distinction between the two, and it was a good distinction to make. And that it only requires one reading on a resolution, but it requires 2 readings and votes on an ordinance. So ultimately, there has to be a second vote on the ordinance. So there's still next council meeting for passage of the ordinance. But the resolution's going to the bond commission, and the next bond commission meeting, I'll have to look that date up again. I think February the 20th, maybe.
Yeah.
And that will put this on the May ballot.
All right. So let's start with I want to start with Mr. Cheatham's comment, and then we'll jump into the reading of that term limits resolution. So Mr. Cheatham got up there.
He just straight up to the point.
Yeah, he just walked up there, said his piece, and turned around. Here we go.
I don't think anybody or the majority of y'all shouldn't even be ruling today other than the mayor. Mayor, these men are lawbreakers. They all have malfeasance in office, and you're going to let them run this city. I don't think you should be the only one today that says anything about what this city is going to do or be. Thank you.
Sorry, sir. What's your name and address?
So, good job, Mr. Cheatham. Way to read them the polite riot act.
Yeah, he just said what he thought. And, I'm glad they just sat up there and took it. And that's what they're supposed to do. I mean, you don't have to agree with what people in the audience say. You need to let them have their say.
Yeah, they could have prevented a lot of this, let's say, controversy or entertainment at some of these meetings by just shutting their mouths. Let the people speak, give them their 3 minutes, and that's done. That's all you legally have to do. We've told them that before, and they refused to listen. They are so recalcitrant.
Yeah, but it's too late now.
Yeah, all right. So let's go to the reading of the resolution. Well,
Adopt a resolution ordering and calling a special election to be held in the city of Bossier City, state of Louisiana, to vote upon the adoption of amendments to the current city charter of the city of Bossier City, making application to the State Bond Commission, and providing for other matters in connection therewith. First and final reading.
So moved. So moved. Second.
Wow. I mean,
council, any comments, questions?
I couldn't keep track. Who did the so moved in the second? All right. Anyway, so let's get up here to Mr. Marriott. Ready? And this is interesting, folks. Y'all want to pay attention to this because Wes lays out something that I don't think they expected to be heard. So here we go.
Wes Marriott, 211 Shadow Ridge Drive, Sobo Live. To clarify, which amendments are we sending to the State Bond Commission?
Charles, you want to answer that one?
The petition amendment?
Yeah, the retroactive term limit.
This is the people's petition that was presented in July of 2024 to the council?
That is correct.
My next question for the council would be, why today? Has there anything changed that I'm unaware of in the last, I don't know how many months it's been since July, 6 months, why we're passing this to the State Bond Commission today versus July 2024?
Yeah.
The lack of response is concerning.
Go ahead.
That baited hook was just dangling there.
Yeah. But the silence is golden. All right, here we go.
In Nebraska Press Association v. Stewart, the Supreme Court, they stated that prior restraint on speech is the most serious and least tolerable infringement on First Amendment rights. And what is prior restraint? Prior restraint is when the government prevents speech or expression before it happens, whether it's the government speech or the speech of the people. Not 10 minutes ago in the lobby of the council chambers, I overheard a conversation that was prior restraint in its most pure form, where counsel for this body told members of this body, don't answer questions, don't talk. They're going to try to be inflammatory. They're going to try to get kicked out. So when the body who holds you accountable, which is the people of Bossier City, asks a question of their governing body and you refuse to answer, it's telling. It's also telling when you get advice that says, don't respond to the public. We all know why this is going forward to the people today, and it's on our agenda. It's on the agenda because the Second Circuit Court of Appeals said you have to. This body twice ignored lawful petitions presented which is a First Amendment protected activity. It is one of our most sacred constitutional rights, the right to free speech, the right to assemble, the right to practice our religion in the manner that we choose. But at the very tail end of that is the right of the press and the right to petition. You ignored that right, which is prohibited under Title 42 United States Code 1985, conspiracy to deprive citizens of a constitutional right. The only reason this is on the agenda today is because the Second Circuit Court of Appeal upheld a citizen of Bossier City's court order for you to put this on the ballot. And the fact that you don't want to talk about it, it reeks of the most, not my words, the Supreme Court's words, intolerable violation of the First Amendment. Thank you.
Well stated, Mr. Marriott.
So he just said right before the start of the meeting, counsel, not the counsel themselves, but the lawyers, or in this case, Charles Jacobs, was advising them not to speak or answer any questions. Basically, not talk about any of this. There's no litigation.
Right.
I mean,
they could have called executive session for that, or should have.
Why were they being directed to not talk about this? I mean, I'm wondering what other directives were given, back there was this another secret meeting?
Well, but here's the interesting thing. So when I walked in there, Wes was sitting over on the couch and was busy writing his speech or checking his notes. That side room door was open and I could hear them in there, but I wasn't really paying attention to what they were saying. So I walked in and I was looking to see who all had showed up for the meeting, because there was, of course, the false rumor that, well, they may not even have a quorum and most of them may not even show up. Well, Hammonds, I think Chris Smith were already inside. And so I started trying to count them. So here's the interesting thing. Not all of the recalcitrant, not all of the councilmen were coached. Apparently, only the recalcitrant 5 were coached. Did you notice that?
Well, I heard their voices in there as well too, and I recognized them, when we came in, and I heard that as well too. I mean, I heard a lot of people talking. I heard a lot of people. It was loud. But I got to tell you, I don't know. It just how many times have the shots that have been taken, and these guys ain't point of order, read the rule. Could you read the rules to Mr. Marriott? Read the rules to whoever, Mr. President, blah, 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 blah. Why no outbursts? Why nothing?
Yeah. I mean, because look, those outbursts are completely out of order and don't follow Robert's rules anyway, which I'll remind everybody, they passed multiple ordinances to follow Robert's rules, as we demonstrated about a dozen shows back. So yeah, it's interesting that, lips were sealed today. So
yeah,
I mean, we all know why. We're just being a little coy about it.
Yeah, so I couldn't resist. I had to poke one of them in the eye just a little bit. I couldn't take it, and I didn't have anything long. But go ahead and play my little short comment.
Here we go.
It's an opportunity to speak. Duke Lowry, 1835 Glencoe Drive, Benton, Louisiana. There's not much more I can say beyond what Mr. Marriott said, except for, are you guys going to dare to object again? It's just a question.
God, that jerk is arrogant.
I know, that little bald-headed short guy's arrogant.
He been eating some potted squirrel meat from Missouri, no doubt.
He's feeling his oats or potted squirrel meat.
And it was at that moment when I said that, I was looking Jeff Freed dead in the eye. And when I tell you, he was gritting his teeth and he so wanted to jump off of that podium and get him a piece, it was It was palpable to me standing there.
Oh, I'm quite sure he wanted to be the jackass again and try to question, whether you live in the city limits, which, news alert, doesn't matter in an open public meeting. You could be from New York City, and honestly, it wouldn't matter. All
That's
right.
exactly right.
So here's the vote. Here we go. Little clapping in the background. Looky there. They all voted for it. Imagine that.
Unanimous. How about that? None of them are going to go down with the ship, but I think Darby and Maggio, I still would like to see them. Maybe next week they'll be there and they will get to vote against the ordinance and go ahead and just go all in.
Yeah, maybe so. All right, Miss Cassie of the lawsuit fame, and also did a lot of walking to get petition signatures and all that. She had some comments. Now, this is on the, I guess it would be ordinance for...
Ordinance, correct.
Yes, for the amendments to the charter. Anyway, so here we go.
Good afternoon, everyone. Cassie Rogers, Bossier City, Louisiana, 71112. First, I would like to thank the mayor, Councilman Smith, and Councilman Hammonds for never wavering in the courtroom and by always being on the side of the people's petition.
And I would like to note that after the meeting, I did thank Tommy for his support of term limits and at least putting the measures forward as well. And I know several other people did out in the audience too, as well as Brian and Chris. All right, here we go. Good point, Cassie.
Thank you. Mayor Chandler, I do wish that your city attorney's office would have represented your position at the bond commission as well as your attorney did in each of those courtrooms. I do believe it would have made a very big difference in this matter. Mr. Mayor, I ask that regardless of this vote today, that you pursue not only publicly, but in conjunction with the Bossier City District Attorney's Office and the Louisiana Attorney General's Office, malfeasance charges for the blatant and outright disregard for our city's Constitution. The oath of office and that each of the accused took freely, and the constitutional right of every signator on both petitions to petition their government. I ask that you cut any and all further funding to fight the will of the people. Our city's money should have never been used by anyone that was a direct result of dereliction of duty. However, in this case, commits malfeasance in office. This council has rode on the coattails of the taxpayers' money for what I hope is the very last time. Your citizens, Mr. Mayor, are your greatest asset. This time, it's time that we put your foot down on this nonsense. I realize you've tried before, but Mayor, the citizens have always been on your side. I could describe the actions of this council as wild, unbelievable, malfeasant, dereliction in duty, unlawful, and so many more. But the bottom line is that they had a choice, and Mr. Mayor, actions have consequences. Trust me when I say that if the roles were reversed and you broke any of these city laws, you wouldn't be allowed to be the mayor anymore, yet let alone be a free man. This isn't the first time that they've broken the city charter laws or have been in derelict in their duties as councilmen. Some things we know about and some things we don't. Mayor Chandler, I'm asking you to continue to do the right thing. If they followed the laws that they set forth, then they shall be found innocent. But if they broke those laws, then they should be held accountable. Please and thank you.
Good job.
Yeah, and she's got a point, and I would like to point out as well that just because they voted today to finally do it, that may get them out of a potential contempt hot water with Park herself, but that doesn't negate the illegal actions that they've taken in the past. Now, I only play a lawyer on Facebook and YouTube, so, I don't have any formal legal training, but that doesn't give them a do-over.
A plain reading of the statute, I mean, they clearly, and judges agreed, had an obligation of an action that they were supposed to take, and they all knowingly chose to not take that action, which is the pure definition of malfeasance. Now, finding a prosecutor such as like the district attorney with an appetite to prosecute, these guys, I don't think Skylar Marvin's going to do it. I don't think he have anything to do with it. And you know what? That's fine if he doesn't have the stomach to do it, but get out of the way for somebody who does have the stomach to do it. And let's let a jury of our peers in the public, let them have the definition by, that's in the law. Let them have the facts regarding this case and let them make the determination as to whether or not these guys committed malfeasance or not. It's just like this petition. Let the people vote. Let the people decide whether or not these guys are guilty or not.
Right.
That's what needs to happen.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I've got some more comments to that effect, but let's hear from Colonel Crockett because he had an interesting take on the situation that he had some comments for. So here we go.
Crockett, 653 Dumaine Drive, Bossier City, Louisiana. I wasn't going to comment today. I think the vote was the real thing that I wanted to come for, but I think one of the things that the public needs to know is how much the city of Bossier City has spent for legal fees for all the different attorneys that you've had to hire, both fighting the city council as well as representing you as a council. We know for a fact, and that's all the way back to the first petition, that you paid approximately $50,000 for the first petition, if not more than that. Then you had to fight the second petition, and you had to represent both the mayor who's fighting the council who has been obstinate. So the people want to know. I believe records requests have been made to try to get that broken down so we can know exactly what you're paying. At the Louisiana Bond Commission, one of the elected people who sat on the Bond Commission just reflected how atrocious it is that you're continuing to pay with the people's money to fight the people. And I think that's one of the things that it just infuriates everybody. And I'm going to reflect back on what I've said over and over again. These people in here have thwarted the will of the people. What you have done is already caused so much damage to the public. So whatever you voted today has cost us money, has cost us time. You could have voted on this the first time you had a petition if you did it out of the goodness of your heart. The people who voted on this should not be running for office, period, dot. Running for mayor, for council, or anything else. You've been an embarrassment. You have awakened the public, but I wanted to also thank the public. I want to thank all the people who came. I want to thank the press who's covered this. There have been incredible articles. Jeff Sadow, bossierwatch covers this on a regular basis.
Duke's crazy joke.
We have been a team. The local press, 710 Keel, has done an incredible job. You have constitutional attorneys that have basically told you that if you don't do this, you're going to be put in jail. That's why you voted for it, that you could be put in jail for this. You could be guilty of a felony. So if any of you run, and this comes up later because we're not going to be quiet about this, people could be voting for a felon. So anyway, those aren't my words. Those are the words of 4 judges. Thank you for your time.
And the Emmy goes to Colonel David Crockett, as he was thanking everybody.
Boy, I got to tell you, I just... Good job, Colonel Crockett. Good job, Cassie. All the people that they hate. Everybody got up there and spoke. They I just cannot believe they were able to keep their mouth shut.
Yeah,
I'm
they did. And look,
blown away.
I want to point out the second vote here that or the vote that I'm showing on the screen was the ordinance for those sections of the city charter, and it was 5-4, 0 against. Now, if only they would have done this months and months and months ago, it would have saved the taxpayers of Bossier City a lot of money and a lot of headache. And this would have gone smoothly. They could have fought it at the ballot box.
Yeah, they could have, but they wanted to. They thought that they had a plan to where they could put their, and they're somewhat, they've been successful. They did their little charter commission thing. They have, and there's, like we said earlier, the Bossier Press is helping them, trying to confuse the public that they would be voting for term limits here in March. And, there is a case to be made for a strategy and how all this plays out, because like you said at the start, this is far from over. I mean, we're going to be dealing with this now for at least another year, and probably litigation going into the future. But, I will go ahead and say it now. I know that they're being given bad legal advice. They seem to think that there is a constitutional problem. There's a defect in retroactive term limits, and so does what's his name that was on the 710 Keel, one of the interviews. He and I went at it a little bit.
Right.
He thinks there's a defect, but that's not true. There is literally case law where you had, I think it was Avoyelles Parish, where the police jury, you had sitting police jury members that were elected in the middle of their terms. The citizens of that parish voted to change to a home rule charter. And as soon as it passed, overnight, all of those police jurymen, they no longer were police jurymen. You had councilmen. They lost their seats.
Well,
and it don't get no more retroactive than that. And what about the judges? When they passed the
Louisiana Supreme Court judges.
Yes. Well, all judges, when they affected the age limitation, I mean, that immediately right there, it don't get no more retroactive than that. You had judges that had to step down then. And so you think that a judge who knows that, any judge in the state of Louisiana is going to find that when the people vote to pass a term limit that says that if you've served this many terms, you can't run for that again, that they're not going to say that that's legal? That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, it is far from over, which means we're going to have to be talking more and more about the city council, even though we're trying to turn our attention to the other government bodies some. I want to share this, though. So, at the end, past the end of the meeting, we're all standing there talking. And Tommy came up, Matt Kay was standing there, Miss Ruth was standing there, I think Cassie was or whatever. But anyway, and Tommy, and I'm paraphrasing, but only slightly, but Tommy said, "I'm glad this is over," or "good thing this is over." And I said, whoa, this is far from over, Tommy. And I, being serious, I like Tommy, nice guy, but he looked at me with this puzzled look. And Matt kind of perked up a little bit like, okay, what are you fixing to hammer him with? And I said, well, Tommy, you got to understand this is far from over, because I said, let me paint you this scenario. Let's say that all the recalcitrant 5 decide to run, and let's say they get elected in March, and the petition or the term limits and charter commission deal gets voted in March. Then let's jump to May, and now let's pretend that hypothetically that the term limits petition gets voted in May. Well, what are you going to do, Tommy? Are you going to have your city marshals come in here and escort them out? And he looked at me like that thought had never occurred to him.
Well, but admittedly, and to that point, we argued in court, and our attorney, Danny, argued in court that nowhere does our petition and our term limit say that a term would end middle of their term. We never argued that. We never said it would. It was just that at qualification, and that's the hang up here. They're hung up on that ideal right there. And I think that's where they mess up, is it doesn't say that you've served 3 terms or appointed before that you can't from that point forward serve anymore and you got to give up. It says that you will be ineligible to qualify for another term. So you wouldn't meet the qualifications. Does
it
that
doesn't
make
mention,
sense?
yeah, but I'm literally reading the Proposition 1 and Proposition 2. So let's analyze this for a second.
No. I'm talking about the people's petition. I'm not talking about those.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
All right. So, members of the city council shall be eligible for re-election. No person who has been elected or appointed to serve for 3 terms shall be eligible to be appointed or elected to an additional term or portion thereof. For purposes of this section,
eligible.
Or eligible. Right.
Right.
Okay. So for purposes of this section, all terms or portion thereof prior to January 1, 2024 shall
eligible
will be
eligible to do what?
No person who's been elected or appointed shall be eligible to be appointed or elected to an additional term.
To be appointed or elected to an additional term. Exactly. If they're already in a term, they're already elected.
So we're stuck with them, and this is honestly the retroactivity at that point is a moot point.
Well, right. I mean, it would be at the next election or the next time there was a vacancy and consideration of appointments, they would not be able to qualify to be elected for another term, and they would not qualify to be considered for an appointment. And that's the hang up. They are hung up and they think it's unconstitutional because it's saying in the middle of their term, they're no longer qualified. That's not what it says.
Well, but their other argument was also that they won't be able to run again, which is correct.
Not for that office.
Well, they could sidestep, and so, if Jeff Free is going to sidestep to run for at-large.
Well, right. They're saying to the public, that it makes us to where we can't run for office again. That's not what it says. It says you can't run for that office again.
Right.
If you want to run for mayor, you can run for mayor. Run for city judge of Bossier. Run for police jury. I mean, the Darbys don't have any problem in switching seats. And they swap off and run one for the other. I mean,
true. Well, the point is, I want everybody to understand as basically the same thing, the scenario that I laid out for Tommy, which could very well happen. Now, if none of the recalcitrant 5 get reelected, or even if they don't qualify or don't get reelected, problem solved. The people's petition gets enacted in May, they're immediately disqualified at that point, problem solved. So that's going to be the key, is do not reelect these jackasses, period.
Yep. And, there's been 100 of y'all solid. I mean, every one of you need to contact. If you contact at least, let's say if all of y'all contact at least 10 people, I mean, you're knocking on the door of 10% of, I think it'll be 10% of the electorate that voted in the last mayor's election, if my math's correctly.
Yeah. So the Colonel says you can't sidestep to at-large to reset your clock. You can't do that. Well, technically they could. We'd have to file a lawsuit to stop them. Yeah, I don't think that's what y'all are not calculating on all this. And trust me, they are.
Well, maybe they are. Maybe I have already calculated. Maybe I'm just not talking about it. But
maybe I should be giving them hints.
Some people just like to talk more than they should, but you know what? I can't fix all the world's problems.
I'm trying to make sure we have lots of content for several years to come. So we never get bored.
I feel I'm still in the middle of a dogfight, but I mean, I guess, I don't know, maybe we're not. You know, Sadow's got a good point. Maybe we should be listening to somebody else's strategy.
All right. So look, I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to be a complete Debbie Downer. Today was a good day. They finally signed off on term limits. I do, even though I don't talk highly of Tommy all the time, I do credit Tommy, Chris Smith, and Brian Hammonds to sticking to their guns and putting these ordinances and resolutions forward when it came down to it, and standing behind it. Could they have done more? Well, Tommy could have, yeah, especially in the legal department. Look, I saw your comments, Haygood, and some of you. I agree fully. I told Tommy, I said, you should have fired Richard Gray. When he made the comment at the bond commission meeting that you supported either version of it, you should have fired him right there. Just for that. So, could more have been done? Yes, but was it a good day overall? And did the people finally get another victory in the term limit saga? Absolutely. And a lot of folks showed up to the meeting, and that is important too.
That is immensely important. I mean, it was a happy sight for me to see all those seats filled and people caring about their community and all that stuff. You know, I was having a conversation, Rex, and again, this is a good day. And I was talking to somebody, and they said, you know, the people have not had a win like this. There's not been many wins, you know, against these guys. And you think about it, we've won this one. And then, you know, what was the last win before that? Link Coleman.
Yeah. It's been a long time.
Coleman. That was a big win, and that was a long time ago. And before that, Mike Dooley. You know, that's way before a lot of people. Mike Dooley kicked their teeth in down there. There's been few and far between wins, and I would say, you know, there's 20-year gaps in between those wins, it seems like. So cherish the moment, cherish the win, and because you don't see bent knee, white flag, calf rope, you don't see it that often, but you got to see it today.
Yeah, and even better about today is the fact that this was completely citizen driven and a group effort. It wasn't just you, wasn't just me, wasn't just the Colonel, wasn't just Wes, wasn't just Cassie. It was an effort by a whole lot of concerned people, and letting your neighbors know about what was going on and all that. So from all of us, we appreciate you, everybody.
We are the Borg.
Yes, we are the Borg. All right, one more quick comment, and we'll start wrapping it up. So Colonel Crockett said, a councilman is a councilman. You never summarize Sadow's article. Apparently, Colonel, you were not paying attention at the beginning. We did show it, but we just got it right before the show, and we didn't have time to summarize it or run it through AI for that matter.
What is he saying? You never summarize Sadow's article? What do you mean we never summarize it?
I don't have an instant replay button, but I can pull up the video and go back and show. Anyway, we love you, Colonel. Go back and watch the beginning of the show, and we're going to share Sadow's article out. We almost always do. So.
Yeah, it is a good read. It is a good read. I didn't have, like you said, we didn't have time to completely analyze it. There was one part that I disagreed with. I don't think Jeff he doesn't have access to all the information. So, but I think that if he did, he would probably side with us if he did, you know, but other than that, I think he's on the mark without a doubt.
Yeah. And look, Jeff does good articles. Sometimes we are, well, I'm going to say most of the time we completely agree with him. Sometimes, you know, we might not completely agree, but that's okay. It's like some of the comments in the show. Not all of you agree with what I say. Not all of you agree with what Duke says. That's what makes this show successful. It's not me and Duke. It's the group effort by everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I prefer Missouri canned squirrel meat, and some of you prefer Mississippi. I don't know why, but it's just the way it is, you know. Rex has an affinity for that California stuff. I don't get it, but whatever.
Wait a
To each
minute.
his own.
California's got like little bitty ground squirrels. There ain't enough meat on those suckers. I've been to California.
Them are squirrels?
Well, they're whatever you call them. Practically chipmunks. There we go. There's a Missouri potted squirrel.
Here's to you, Bossier City Council. Y'all need to go get y'all some of this. This squirrel's for you.
Anything else tonight, Mr. Lowry?
Oh no, they just need to put a Bud Light back and have them some Missouri potted squirrel, and they're gonna be just fine.
I agree, Rusty Maddox. It is time to go fishing as we eat our Missouri potted squirrel. I'm going to hit the finish button, Mr. Lowry. Take us out of here.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.